this is Trista from Zero Casualties, and welcome to another vintage recipe. Today we are going to make rolled oats bread from Delineator Cookbook again, and we are going to be making 2 loaves of this delicious bread. So let's get into the ingredients before we get to the first step of making this bread. So for this bread, we just have a few basic ingredients. First, we have 1 cup of rolled oats. So these are not the quick cooking ones, they are just regular rolled oats. And then we have a 1/2 cup of molasses, or you could use a 1/2 cup of sugar or brown sugar. Then we have about a tablespoon of melted butter. It can be mostly melted, that's great. And then it calls for a cake of yeast, but I'm using 4.5 teaspoons of instant yeast. I keep that in the freezer, and that will be mixed with a 1/2 cup of lukewarm water. I'm gonna warm that up a little bit more when we get to it. Then we have 4.5 cups of all-purpose flour. It says sifted, so I'm just gonna take my whisk around with this in a little bit. And then we have some kosher salt. We want to use 1.5 teaspoons of this. That and some boiling water, and we are ready to go. So let's do the first quick step on this bread. The first step on this bread is to pour in 2 cups of boiling water. Woo, you can see that's very steamy. Sorry about that. Anyway, we want to pour that over our oats, and we're going to let that sit there for a whole hour. It says to let it steam, so I assume that's not on the stove. Good, the steam dissipated a little. So what I'm going to do is give it a little spa day. And so see here the oats with the boiling water. We're covering it up with a dish towel. I'm gonna let that have a little steam room time, and we will be back in an hour. Okay, we are back after letting our oats soak and kind of have a steam bath in the boiling water. They're still warm to the touch, but we are going to, let me just grab my wooden spoon. We're going to be adding in the rest of the ingredients and getting it ready for its first rise. So this just looks like oatmeal you would eat for breakfast. So we're going to add the 4.5 teaspoons of yeast. Then we're going to add the 1/2 cup of molasses. And I'm going to spoon this in here. Here we go. I don't know if any of you like to have oatmeal for breakfast or really like oat bread or granola. I really also like to make granola out of oats. So we got that molasses in there. And then we're gonna add in our kosher salt, so 1.5 teaspoons of that. And then the melted butter. It's solidified just a little bit, but I think that's okay. We'll mix it in anyway. All right. Let's get that mixed up really well. So it's kind of one whole mixture there. I love how moist oats make bread, so I'm really excited to try this. And actually, this looks yummy to eat right here. So, yes, that looks perfect. And then we're gonna stir in the flour. And I love how this recipe says, set away to rise. So that sounds just very old-fashioned to me. So to be vintage, we are just going to use a wooden spoon to stir this around and make it into a dough. So it doesn't say to knead it or anything, so I'm just going to get this stirred up. Do any of you like to make bread? Please let me know down in the comments. Be sure to give this video a like if you enjoy it. Let me know down below if you're gonna try this recipe, if you love making bread, if you're afraid of making bread. Don't be afraid, it's very easy. The only tip I would say is leave your yeast in either the fridge or the freezer because it's going to last a lot longer, and it will, do a better job of rising your bread for you. So this is looking pretty good. It's interesting that, it just says stir in the flour, so I'm very curious. It's interesting that it doesn't really say to knead it. However, you know what? I kind of want to a little bit because I know in these recipes they are a little bit minimal in their instructions because they give kind of slightly more detailed instructions in some of the basic recipes, and then it just expects you to know that. So you know what? We are going to need this just a little bit because I want to make a nice ball to be able to let this rise, and this is not looking like something I want to let rise. So we are going to use our best judgment and knead this. I'm going to be back in just a moment. I just got to get some flour. So this is a little bit of a mess, but never fear, we're going to get this together. I think a lot of times with these vintage recipes, we have to use our best judgment because a lot of times they kind of assume that you already know, the basics and what to do. And even if you do, it's nice if it has a little more detailed instructions there. So my instincts say to knead this. Otherwise, for the second rising, it's not going to really turn into loaves very well. So I would definitely say, get a floured board before we get this first rising, and gather up all of these little bits, and we're just going to kind of fold them in on each other. And it's smelling really yummy. It smells like a bowl of oatmeal. So let me get this together. A lot of times I've noticed in these recipes, they're like, oh, follow this method. And I'm like, well, I don't even know what page that method is. So I think because this was a Home Institute cookbook, perhaps it went with, I don't know, class lessons, or maybe it was like a home economics school or something, and maybe they taught you some of the basic things. But it's also funny because this says loaves, but it doesn't say how many loaves this makes. And I'm definitely gonna try to make 2 loaves because based on my experience, this amount of flour and ingredients produces about 2 loaves, but I still wish they would be a little more specific. It is interesting how this works. So I'm just getting little bits here. Get that folded over. We're gonna get this dough as smooth as we can. It's a little bit challenging because it's very thick, but we are gonna get this incorporated as best we can. Get it to be a nice cohesive dough. Do you like kneading by hand, or do you prefer to use a dough hook? If you do make bread, let me know. And have you tried any of these old recipes? I think they're pretty fun to see how they turn out, and also the old types of ingredients you had. So we are actually making this bread for a sandwich that I thought was intriguing, also from this book. So I thought, you know, people didn't buy their bread quite as much then. So I thought, let's make a bread that we can use for the sandwiches. So I'm looking forward to doing that. It will be a nice tea sandwich that you'd have kind of for an afternoon tea. All right, I'm gonna call that good. It is pretty cohesive, so what I'm gonna do is just put a little bit of flour in the bottom of that same bowl. Put our dough in there. Then we're gonna cover it with that nice towel, and I will see you in about an hour when that rises. See you then. Okay, we are back with our dough. I actually ended up putting it in the fridge after an hour because it had risen, but I was gonna eat lunch, and so I kind of retarded the rising of it, slowed it down. So you can see that you can poke your finger into the dough and it just rises a little bit slowly, and that is a great sign. The only funny thing is I forgot to put this water in here. So I actually think I'm gonna do that right now, sort of incorporate it in. Actually, maybe I'll do that in the bowl before I form it into a couple of loaves. So, yeah, I was supposed to put the yeast in with the water, but I forgot to do that. So I thought, you know, I want it to be moist, so I should work this in. And this is not ideal, but it's not the end of this bread, so. And because of this, I might need to add a little bit of flour. It's gonna get a little bit mushy, but I thought, you know, I wanna make sure this bread has enough liquid. So we're just gonna work that in as much as we can. And then we will be rolling out the dough in just a moment. So let me take a break and I'll be back when we're rolling it out for making loaves. So here we are back with the dough. I incorporated a little extra flour because it was really sticky because of that water, which is okay. I just wanted to make sure that the dough was not too dry because of my mistake. So normally you would use that water to dissolve the yeast in and then add it in, but I just forgot. It's okay, we can make up for that by adding it in now, and you can see that this is really nice and cohesive. So I'm gonna take my bench scraper. You can just use a knife if you don't have one of these, or something of that nature. Just a butter knife or something works. But anyway, I'm gonna divide this dough roughly in half, and we're gonna roll each half into a loaf. And we can kind of get a look at the balls. If one of them needs a little extra dough, I just kind of eyeball it and kind of donate a little bit more over here. Just make sure they're more or less even. So again, it doesn't really say, you know, how to form the loaves, which is funny. It just says beat thoroughly after the first rise, which seems a little strange, even though we did knead it. Maybe that's what they mean. But anyway, we want to, it's not going to be perfect, but we want to make kind of a rectangle that we're going to be rolling out. So add a little extra flour on the top. And I'm going to take my handy French rolling pin and roll out this loaf. So you can see the 9x5 pan, we want it to fit in here. I did spray this with a pan spray. You could also butter it or oil it, but definitely I would say oil or spray is better than butter as far as getting it not to stick. But anyway, we want to kind of roll it on the side and lengthwise. So we want it to be fitting the pan more or less. Okay. And it's not going to be a perfect shape, but anyways, let's see if we can, actually, I'm going to roll it more out this way. All right. That's looking pretty good. So let's see if this is gonna fit. So we want to have it seam side down and then kind of roll this, the sides in a bit, kind of tuck those under, and we can always kind of mush it to fit. So that's looking pretty good. I'm gonna take it out just for a moment to kind of elongate it a little bit, get it to fit a little better in there. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So we want it more or less like this. It's not an exact science, but anyway, here we go. So basically the second one's gonna be the same process. And what we're gonna do after I get both of these formed is we'll cover it with a towel again. And a lot of times what I like to do is either put these in an oven that you've heated a little bit, like maybe to 150 or 200, and then turned off. Or in a microwave that of course you're not going to turn on for at least an hour or so, because we want these to rise a little bit above the lip here. So I'm not sure if that's going to take an hour or two. We will see. We'll go for an hour first, and again, if I might need to put these in the fridge after a little while, since I'm going to have to go pick up my son from school soon. So if for any reason in the process you need to go somewhere and you don't want your dough to overproof, you can put it in the fridge. I think that is really great, and it just develops even more flavor because it's you know, working its magic longer. I don't know what the scientific term for that is. I've forgotten, but anyway, so I will leave it here, but this is basically the same as the first one, and then I will come back when those are risen and ready to go in the oven. The original directions just say until light, but that just means it is doubled in bulk, or passes that poking test. So I will see you when we're ready to bake the loaves. So I just wanted to show you how the loaves are doing. I let them rise about 45 minutes at room temperature, and then they rose a little bit more in the fridge. So I'm gonna let them kind of warm up to room temperature here a little bit while the oven is heating up to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And I will be back to show you what the finished loaves look like. I'm gonna try to bake them about half an hour and then kind of check them to see how they're doing. So yeah, fingers crossed. You can see that they've risen quite a bit. It's not, it's not up quite to here. It's very, very close. Anyways, since I'm guessing a little bit on these, I'm gonna say that they're pretty good and they pass the finger test. So I think we're good to go. Alrighty, let's get these in the oven. Hello, welcome back. We are getting the loaves ready to put in the oven. So I just decided, since I add my own touches, I was gonna put some melted butter on the tops. Just kind of brush that on there just to make it kind of add a little extra flavor and color to it. And yeah, so these are about ready to go in the oven. They look really good. So I think what we'll do is I'm going to keep one out for making toast in the mornings, and then I might freeze the other one to use later. It's always good. Sometimes it's a busy week and we need a little extra bread, so I can bring that out later. So here we are. I will pop those in the oven. I'm gonna let them go about half an hour, and then I'll check on them and I'll bring them back to show you when they're done. And we're back with fresh bread out of the oven. This oatmeal loaf looks amazing. It smells so good. It's very hot. So it made 2 very nice small loaves, which will make excellent toast, I am sure. So I will be back later on. I'm gonna let these cool in the pan for a little bit and then turn them out onto a wire rack. And then we will give them a taste test in a little bit. It sounds nice and hollow when I tap on it, so that means it's done. So stay tuned for the final tasting, and we'll see what these loaves look like out of the pan. Everybody's here to try the oatmeal bread. So I will grab the heel piece. Try some.
We salute your sacrifice.
I do not mind the heel.
Smells good. Smells like bread.
Mmm. Mmm.
I like it. The texture is nice.
Nice and light. It's very good.
Yeah, it's like a light wheat or kind of oaty or something.
Yeah, it's got oatmeal and molasses and stuff. So.
I bet it'd be really good if you like dip it in something or maybe like put butter on it.
Oh yeah,
Oh my gosh.
Let's toast it up and
This
put
would make
butter.
amazing toast with butter, I bet.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys.
Out of approves.
Bye. Thank you so much.